The moment the security guard handed him a small cardboard box and told him to clear his desk, Marcus Bennett knew his life had just changed forever. After 12 years of giving everything to the company, the single father stood frozen in the middle of the office he had helped build, holding a few personal belongings while his coworkers looked away in uncomfortable silence. His boss had fired him without warning, without gratitude, and without caring that Marcus had a young daughter waiting at home who depended on him. But what nobody in that office knew was that the man they had just thrown away was not an ordinary employee. Hidden behind his simple clothes and quiet personality was a past that could bring the entire company to its knees. And all it took was one phone call for the truth to finally come out. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that every person deserves respect, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. Marcus Bennett lived in a small neighborhood outside Dallas, Texas, with his 9-year-old daughter, Chloe. Since losing his wife, Rachel, 3 years earlier, Marcus had become both a father and a protector. Every morning, he prepared Chloe's breakfast, packed her school bag, and walked her to the bus stop before heading to work. His life was not easy, but he never complained. He believed that a good father did not need a perfect life, he only needed a determined heart. Marcus worked as a senior operations manager at Westbridge Technologies, a successful company known across the United States. Many employees knew him as the man who stayed late to help others, the person who fixed problems nobody else wanted to handle, and the employee who never took credit for his achievements. However, over the years, the company changed. A new CEO named Grant Holloway arrived with a different vision. He cared more about numbers, appearances, and personal success than the people who helped the company grow. Slowly, hardworking employees were replaced by cheaper workers, and loyalty became meaningless. Marcus noticed the changes, but he stayed because he needed the paycheck. Chloe had dreams of becoming a doctor one day, and Marcus wanted to give her every opportunity he never had. He was willing to endure difficult days if it meant building a better future for his daughter. One Monday morning, Marcus was called into Grant's office. He expected a regular meeting, but instead, he found several executives sitting around the table. The atmosphere felt cold. Grant looked through a folder and told Marcus that the company was restructuring and his position was no longer needed. Marcus was shocked. He tried to explain that he had spent years improving the company's systems, saving millions of dollars, and helping teams succeed. But Grant had already made his decision. He accused Marcus of being outdated and claimed younger employees could do his job better. The hardest part was not losing the position. It was seeing how easily his years of dedication were forgotten. Marcus quietly packed his belongings into a small box. As he walked through the office, memories rushed through his mind. He remembered the nights he stayed until midnight fixing emergencies, the weekends he sacrificed with Chloe, and all the times he put the company before himself. When he reached the parking lot, he sat inside his old car and stared at the steering wheel. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel defeated. He worried about rent, school expenses, groceries, and how he would tell Chloe that things were going to be different. That evening, Marcus forced a smile when he walked through the front door. Chloe immediately noticed something was wrong. She could see sadness in her father's eyes, but Marcus simply hugged her and told her that everything would be okay. Later that night, after Chloe fell asleep, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table. The silence reminded him of a promise he had made years ago after his wife passed away: he would never let his daughter see him give up. Then he looked at an old business card sitting inside a drawer. It belonged to someone who had once told Marcus that his talent was rare and that he should never allow anyone to make him feel small. Marcus picked up his phone. For years, he had kept a secret. Before joining Westbridge Technologies, Marcus was not just an employee. He was a brilliant technology consultant who had helped several companies recover from financial disasters. He had walked away from that world after Rachel's death because he wanted a stable job and more time with Chloe. But one person knew the full truth about him: Victor Reynolds, a respected investor and founder of several major companies across America. Marcus made the call. The next morning, everything changed. Grant Holloway arrived at Westbridge Technologies expecting another successful day. He had no idea that a single phone call from the quiet employee he had fired the day before had already started a storm. Victor Reynolds had discovered what happened. He knew Marcus's value, his history, and the sacrifices he had made. More importantly, Victor knew that Westbridge Technologies had been losing direction for years because leaders like Grant ignored the people who truly built the company. Within hours, major investors began questioning Grant's decisions. Meetings were cancelled. Deals were reconsidered. The same executives who ignored Marcus suddenly realized they had made a massive mistake. Meanwhile, Marcus received an unexpected invitation to meet with Victor. Instead of returning to his old job, Marcus was offered something far greater: the chance to lead a new company division focused on helping talented people who had been overlooked. Marcus accepted, but not because he wanted revenge. Nathan saw the fear in his son's eyes, and that hurt more than the insults. He had spent years teaching Caleb to be respectful, but now he was watching an adult use power to make a child's father feel worthless. Then Victoria took the check from the desk. Nathan immediately asked her to wait because the documents could be verified. But she smiled coldly, tore the $13 million check in half, and then tore it again. The pieces fluttered onto the desk like scraps of paper. She told him that the check was worthless and that he should leave before security became involved. For a moment, Nathan simply stared at the torn pieces. His face showed no anger, only disappointment. He looked at Caleb and gently said that they were going to go home. But just as he turned toward the door, the entire atmosphere of the bank changed. The elevator doors opened at the end of the lobby, and a tall man in a dark navy suit stepped out with two executives behind him. It was Richard Bennett, the regional president of First Meridian Bank, a man who rarely visited local branches without warning. Victoria immediately stood up when she saw him. But Richard wasn't looking at her. His eyes had locked onto Nathan. The powerful executive walked across the lobby with an expression of disbelief. Then he stopped directly in front of the tired mechanic and said, "Mr. Carter?" Nathan looked confused. Richard's face softened, and before anyone could understand what was happening, the bank president extended his hand and said, "Sir, I have been trying to find you for years." The lobby went completely silent. Victoria's smile disappeared. Richard turned toward her and asked what had happened. Victoria tried to explain that the check was fraudulent, but Richard looked at the torn pieces on her desk. He immediately recognized the name on the check and then recognized Nathan himself. Years earlier, when First Meridian Bank had nearly collapsed during a devastating financial crisis, Nathan had been one of the anonymous community members who purchased emergency bonds through a charitable fund. He had invested nearly all of his savings, not to become rich, but to protect the jobs of hundreds of local workers and keep small businesses from losing access to loans. Richard had been a junior executive at the time. He had spent years trying to discover the identity of the anonymous investor who had saved the bank's regional division. He had never expected that the mysterious benefactor would be the humble mechanic standing in front of him with a child by his side. Nathan quietly admitted that he had never thought anyone needed to know. He had simply believed that if he could help people keep their jobs, then helping was the right thing to do. Richard looked at the torn $13 million check and then at Victoria. His expression became painfully serious. He explained that the check was completely legitimate, and that the bank had just destroyed one of the largest deposits.